today we're gonna focus on the major updates. The full list, again, you might be able to find on the changelog. So first of all, we would like to start with an introduction of Aidbox FHIR Schema Validator. We are moving to the new validation engine that will be even faster than our previous ones. And what's more important, it is based on a FHIR schema, our vision on the next generation schemas for validation of FHIR data. This is already in place in Aidbox, and Evgeny, I invite you to continue.
In the previous release, we introduced a new validator engine and a demo stand where you can try out new features and play with FHIR schemas and try out new things. In this release, we integrated this engine directly into Aidbox. So right now, Aidbox supports a new validator engine that works with FHIR schema under the hood. You can use it in Aidbox right now. So all of the validations, for example, of constraints, slices, terminology bindings, all of this stuff is working in Aidbox right now. So as you can see, there's a REST console of Aidbox, and there's a patient that is following US core patient profile. So we can post it. So as you can see, everything is fine. Let's try to change something and broke some code value. And as you can see, there's a message about terminology binding validation violation. To try out this directly into Aidbox, please follow this guide with step-by-step setup of Aidbox. Here's a guide how you can enable some of the publicly known IGs. Just throw in some environment variables that specify these packages and enable a new validation mode. Here's the full list of IGs that's supported at this moment. So just search whatever version or whatever package you need and place it in environment variable. And there's also an interesting detail. We provide this comparison table with validation engine features, so you can compare them and see how FHIR schema dominates in most of the aspects of validation process. So basically, that's it.
So once again, just to enable a specific IG in Aidbox, what should I do?
You should follow the documentation. I will share this one in Zoom chat, I guess. Yep, I hope this will be fine. And just follow the documentation and select package from the package list mentioned in the documentation page.
So I don't have to post any structure definitions or other stuff to Aidbox, right?
Yep.
Because Aidbox has a register of the IGs that we keep maintaining.
Yep.
There's a question: can we use same validator against custom profiles? Definitely yes. Evgeny, could you elaborate on this?
Of course, but first of all, you should convert these profiles into FHIR schema, and it depends on your original format. So if it's a structure definition, there's no problem at all. We provide a compilator. So this provides structure definitions with your profiles. We pre-compile them to FHIR schema and load them to Aidbox, and this will behave just like a regular profiles. So there's no problem at all, is it?
We have been developing a Aidbox Forms, a module that allows to get data from those who submit the forms and extract these data to FHIR resources and persist to the database. Our huge initiative in this field is introducing a UI builder of the forms, and we have people from the forms team today to do the quick demonstration and to answer your questions. Vitaly, are you here?
Yep, we recently introduced our form builder. It's still in alpha, but we add some nice features. Here you see on the left side, like a tree structure of the questions. You can create here equations and also to set up them, and also you can swap them around In this release, we add several features. You can see how it looks, the form in the questionnaire. You can copy this and use it as standalone. Also, you can see here questionnaire response. For now, it's just empty because I don't fill any fields. See, now we have. And also in this release, we add some new features like enable when expressions that can be set up here from the UI itself. Just for demo reasons, I just show you to be short. For now, we see the quantity input is, let's name it temperature. This input is visible. We type this rule like false. We don't have this field right now. Here you can write in Lisp, in our Aidbox Lisp, some expressions, get in maybe some another one field, get a value from the field if it's true, maybe equal true or not. And after that, it will show. And also in this release, we add some attributes for min and max values for validation. What's interesting is that this white part can validate in runtime without any server interactions. And I think this is all.
Great, thanks so much. So the next topic is a workflow engine. Aidbox has introduced a workflow engine several months ago, and since that time we've been enhancing and improving it.
Okay, so my name is Max. Today I'll introduce you with updates related to our integration models. First one is actually quite important, is a bridge between a FHIR subscription topic specification, which we support last release, and our workflow engine. So I will explain the idea first. Subscription specification includes subscription topic resource. It's a perfect way to describe event which may happen in your FHIR server. So, for example, you may describe that you want to have as a trigger encounter in completed state, or a patient for which status disease is set to true. You do this with a FHIR path expression, and they may be quite complicated. They may include current and previous state and resolve a reference resource and so on. So it's the first part. Usually it's used to implement a subscription specification, but subscription specification doesn't allow you to make a guaranteed delivery and doesn't allow you to have any way to implement some actions to these events. It's where our workflow engine specification may help heavily. So the task allow you to extend Aidbox and to write implementation of certain actions outside of Aidbox, but using API. So we prepared a subscription topic, but you may set up a certain activities which will be created when an event is triggered. So in this case, I have a number of them. So when an encounter completed will be created, a task will be created for this. The same for patient diseased. So it's like a logical tasks by implementing which you may implement any logic. So for example, fetch the data from the EHR when new patient created, or I don't know, send a notification using Twilio API. As it's in your code, it's in your full control what the action will be implemented. So quickest demo, we didn't have any task right now. In community notebooks, I have a special one for this demo. So when I create encounter, it's just processed as a usual FHIR request, but a new task is created. As I didn't have implementation for this task right now, it's in ready state. It's where your code start to work. It will fetch the task, it will complete the actions, and responsibility of Aidbox will be to guarantee that the task will be created and it will be completed one time. You may implement them in parallel in multiple runtimes and so on. So every task consists of parameters where the actual event data is stored. In this case, our encounter we created. So in notebook, we have all information how to implement the task. You also could read our documentation and use our SDK. I'll skip the details. The project which I use for demo is also available on GitHub. It's a good start point if you want to implement your scenarios. Okay, let's move further. Next pair of updates is related to our task API. First one is actually a service which allows you to set up a policy for task retention. So the task itself is actually doesn't intend to store a business information. It's just store the status of execution of them. So you usually didn't want to store a task for a long time. With a cleanup activity, you may set up a policy rules for different tasks for how long you want to store them, in what status, and so on. So it's quite easy, and this policy will be like scheduled with our scheduler service. Second small update is a task which already implemented in Aidbox. It means you didn't need to set up it in your service, which allow you to execute any SQL and store the result. It's also quite useful with scheduler service to set up some activities to do reporting regularly or do some service task on that database and so on. Okay, and the last update is related to FHIR subscription topics. We in Aidbox rely heavily on Postgres logical replication mechanism to implement subscription and to make it robust and reliable. And if you use Aidbox with a distribution of Postgres, which we ship with it, with AidboxDB, it will work out of the box without a problem. But if you use a cloud-managed database, it may require some configuration and some support. So from this release, we support a cloud database, and we published a guide how to set up database to work with logical replication with Aidbox. We now have a guide for AWS RDS service and for Azure Flexible Server, and guides for other cloud services will be available soon.
The next huge topic that we wanted to share is that right now Aidbox supports RxNorm. We have prepackaged it as an FTR. Basically, it's a way of managing RxNorm as a specific terminology in Aidbox to manage updates, to ensure that you're using the latest version. All this stuff is automated by Aidbox. All you need is just to specify the FTR with RxNorm terminology, and Evgeny here is the one who will show us how it works.
So, as Mike mentioned, this terminology support implemented via FTR mechanism, and FTR, which stands for FHIR Terminology Repository, is our internal mechanism for terminology distribution and maintenance and synchronization with Aidbox instances. We delivered a pipeline that automatically downloads updates of RxNorm distribution on a monthly basis. So we keep the latest version whenever it's possible in an automated manner. And as Aidbox user, you just need to specify dependency from RxNorm FTR, and your Aidbox will also receive automatic updates whenever they will be available. So for example, if RxNorm release a new version in December, Aidbox going to automatically synchronize the new version, then load updates of concepts, deprecate removed one, or update displays, etc. As you can see right now, if you're going to add FTR as a dependency to the clean Aidbox, there will be 200,000 concepts. Like all of them are with system RxNorm, and the concept will be represented as just code, display, and additional displays for the same concepts. And they're going to be stored in a property map. And there also is a pressable flag, is just a property from RxNorm distribution. And we also open to discussion about what properties do we need, and we can add them easily to our distribution of RxNorm. So we can easily add properties from RxNorm like TDI or statuses and CDI codes, etc., etc. And that's it.
A quick question from me: how do I use my own or custom terminology?
Yep, it's possible via different mechanism. One of them is, once again, FTR. You can alter and maintain your custom terminology via FTR mechanism and rules and mechanics. And you also will gain every benefit you're getting from FTR. So if you're going to update your local custom terminology, you can effectively sync it with any of your Aidbox clients. And we have guides in our documentation about how to implement and maintain your own FTR. Another way to work with terminology in Aidbox, you can import concepts directly via bulk import mechanisms, or using just regular FHIR API, just post some code system, and they will be stored and transformed internally to the concept sets, and you can mimic and use FHIR API.
The last but not the least, a bunch of updates on our C-CDA FHIR bidirectional converter. And Artemy is here to give some updates and do a quick demo.
So the first major feature, it's about the problem that exists in the domain of CDA documents. The problem is that link codes are not perfectly matched to C-CDA OIDs, and it may be that a single link code can be mapped to two OID of CDA document. And the only difference between these OIDs will be that the one should have entries, while the other has no requirements for entries. So we have added feature. So we extension into section description in the FHIR composition resource. And we also added the same thing into document definition. So what is document definition and what is FHIR composition resource? Basically, our converter, it takes FHIR composition resource and converts it to CDA document. And document definition is sort of DSL. It describes how data should be fetched from database, and it creates FHIR composition resource that then is converted to CDA document. So we have the same thing here. We can add flag called entries required into our document definition, and it will create CDA section with correct OID in resulting document. So probably that's all for this one. The next one is that now we enabled multiple queries. So priorly we were able to just add single instruction for database using FHIR Search API, and it was considered not very convenient. And it was added a thing that makes able to call several FHIR Search queries. We nest them into array, and the result is a big array of resulting FHIR resources. So we can see it here. Here is a single query, and here we see two queries for the same section. The next feature is section narratives. There are two ways of getting section narratives. The first one is customized narratives. So the user primarily uploads some narrative about some CDA section, and we use observation resource for it. If you want to add a narrative section in your CDA document, you should create FHIR observation and add the code of corresponding section. For example, here we see code 8653-8. It means it will be discharge instruction section. And in our query, we should pass the same code to get our custom narrative block. If you do not want to mess with this, we have narrative sections that are generated programmatically. And here we list all sections that are currently supported. So if you see a green tick, it means it is currently supported. And if we have a red cross, it is not supported. Yes, and we try to cover all these sections to use them. Yeah, probably that's all for this release.
I just want to remind you that all the recent updates are available in our documentation. And so this is the release that we have discussed right now, but here is an extensive list of previous releases. And as you can see, there are specific tags. So if you want to stay on a specific version of Aidbox, you might choose this tag. But we strongly recommend you to move with the latest or stable tags, to move with us to get the functionality smoother. And here is some more information on our release cycle. So if you have any additional questions and don't want to give them right now, feel free to consult our documentation or reach out to us directly via support chats or through our account managers. That's basically it.